Okay, Olin, you can start.
Okay.
Yeah, please start.
So, hello all. Namaskar. Khulumbai. Khulumbai is the Boro word for namaskar in Boro. So, on behalf of the Department of Linguistics of Assam University, Silchar, and the Tibeto-Burman Linguistics Association of Northeast India, we welcome all the esteemed speakers and the participants to the session 3 of the webinar, which is exclusively, I think, on the language documentation of Northeast India. It starts with a plenary by Professor David Peterson, a PhD from University of California. He's an associate professor of linguistics in the Department of Linguistics, Dartmouth College, United States. So his areas of expertise include morphosyntactic typology, comparative Tibeto-Burman, and language description and documentation. He has worked so much on the Tibeto-Burman languages of particularly Kuki-Chin languages spoken in Northeast India and Bangladesh. Some of his selected publications include on Kuki-Chin subgrouping, language typology, and historical contingency. Rengmitka, the most endangered Kuki-Chin language of Bangladesh, for participant marking in Kumi, Kumi elaborate expressions, Bangladesh Kumi verbal classifiers and Kuki-Chin chiming, applicative constructions, agreement and grammatical relations in Hayo, Hakalai, on Kumi pronominal agreement morphology, and many other. His ongoing works on the languages of Northeast India and Bangladesh are comparative grammar of Kuki-Chin languages, reference grammars of Kumi and Mrung, which is also known as Murung and Mrung, documentation of Rengmitka, which has not more than 20 native speakers alive in Bangladesh, if I'm not wrong. With this very brief introduction to the speaker, the Department of Linguistics of Assam University and Tiblani Society are so much privileged and glad to welcome Professor Peterson to speak on language documentation in Northeast India. Professor, now the screen is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that nice introduction. Let me share. Hopefully the sound will come here as well. Can everybody see that okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me make this big. First of all, thank you again for the introduction, and thank you to the webinar organizers and the participants for what I'm sure will be interesting discussion. I want to also thank my funder, the U.S. National Science Foundation, which sponsored my work with Muru and Kumi, which are a couple languages I'll be talking about, and also thanks to my teachers for various languages. What I want to do today, and actually I need to set my clock up here so that I don't go tremendously over. I'm going to talk about dictionaries essentially and what should go into them. And I feel myself an imposter on a couple of levels. One, the languages that I work with actually are spoken mostly in Bangladesh and in Burma. I've only done a very small amount of work in Northeast India proper. Although I recently realized that there actually are speakers of Kumi, one of the languages I'll talk mostly about, in Mizoram. I'm not sure how many speakers there are, but there is a population there. So Kumi also counts, I guess, as a Northeast India language in a sense. And another language I'll mention in passing, Lai, also is spoken, or a variety of Lai is spoken in Mizoram as well. So another legitimately Northeast Indian language, I think. Let's see, the other level I feel that I'm an imposter on is I actually have never completed a dictionary of a language. So I have, for the languages that I work on, working dictionaries, which constitute at best, the best word list that I can make for these languages at this point. And they might be of some use to communities if they're made available more widely, but they really aren't what I envision as a proper dictionary. And what I hope to pass on to you today is why I think it's so difficult to, or in part, why I think it's so difficult to come up with an adequate dictionary. Let's see, so I need to go to the next thing. So the South Central Tibeto-Burman
Sir, you got muted by mistake.
Sorry, I'm not sure how long ago it was. Was it at this slide?
1 second.
Was it here or was it before? Just 1 second. Okay.
Yes.
So I'll start here. So the South Central Tibeto-Burman subgroup, or the Kuki-Chin group as it is also known, contains these languages, and the two languages that are highlighted in blue here are the only ones I'm going to say anything about. So Lai, or Hakka Lai as I usually refer to it, and Kumi, which I've already introduced a little bit. So if you were at my talk a few weeks ago, you'll remember this map showing them in South Central speaking area, which I'm sure most people here are familiar with. But Lai is spoken primarily where this line points to in the middle of Chin State. But again, it also is spoken by, or varieties of Lai are spoken as Chin State. And the pink area on this map is actually where, I probably should repeat what I said. Zoom is telling me my internet connection was unstable, so you probably missed something there. So Kumi is spoken in Western Chin State, far southwestern Chin State, and the pink area is the relevant area here. There are a bunch of other languages spoken together with Kumi, and the pink area actually extends on the map far beyond where it ends in this slide. And Kumi is also spoken, of course, in Bangladesh by a couple thousand speakers, which are divided into two dialects. And the data here is all from the northern dialect, which is spoken in the vicinity of Ruma, a little bit south of Bandarban, which gives its name to this area, the Bandarban Hill Tracts in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. Kumi is also, if you look carefully, there are a couple of Ks at the very bottom underneath Ringmicha here. And those are a different dialect, more similar to the dialects that are spoken in India and in Burma. So another language I'm going to talk about briefly in a couple of spots is Mru. And if you turn your head sideways, you'll see Mru written in a couple of bands towards the left here. So Mru. Mru is basically spoken in a patchwork way all over the far southern Chittagong Hill Tracts. So maybe about 80,000 to 100,000 speakers, depending on whose figures you listen to. Karbi, you're familiar with, a legitimate Northeast Indian language. And I'll mention Karbi just in passing with respect to one item. So this is a list of things that I had wanted to talk about, but in order to keep myself approximately 30 minutes, I think I'm only going to be talking about the first two, elaborate expressions and verbal classifiers. These other elements, I have a few slides on, some more extended than others, but feel free to ask me about what I might have said about these other topics in the discussion period. And I'll try to conclude with some methodological suggestions and also some kind of optimistic points about the future of lexical documentation and lexicography in general in Tibeto-Burman. So elaborate expressions, the first thing I want to talk about, these are so-called because they are more elaborate than simply an expression. So the basic idea is you have a way of expressing something, a word, say a noun, but you can also add something to that word. You can elaborate it in order to achieve some effect. And I'll talk in a few minutes about what the effects are. So this word, as far as I know, was first used by Mary Haas, possibly not first in her Thai students dictionary, but definitely she talks about it there in detail. And it was used by her student Jim Matisoff, who I'm sure is familiar to everybody here, in his work with Lahu, in his grammar of Lahu, and also in his masterful Lahu dictionary. Lots of information about elaborate expressions in his dictionary. These are different from echo formations. So something that means X, etc., or noun, etc., like you sometimes see in South Asia. They're also different from things that I believe many people refer to as coordinate compounds. So in Kumi, rice, cooked rice is biu, and curry is ang. And biu-ang doesn't mean specifically rice or curry, it means food, right? So there's this general word food. Is mother and ampo is father, or one's mother, one's father. Ampo means parents, it doesn't mean specifically father or mother. So these are kind of coordinate compounds, which words that are put together and then give you a slightly different meaning. The elaborate expressions are what I'll call quasi-compounds, and they actually have a more loose relationship than compounds typically involve, and at least one example will show you that. I don't have too many examples in here, but some of the data is unnumbered. So if you look down at the bottom, there's a slide number, and so if you have a question about a particular slide, anything in a particular slide, let me know what the slide number is. So jot down the slide number, and the examples, that should be clear. There's only one per page. So I actually hope this will come through okay. So here is an example of a use of elaborate expressions that I heard very early in my work with Kumi. Was that audible? Monlali, can you tell me? Mary Kim?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, great.
Yes,
Okay, so you could hear what it was. Maybe it was too fast for you to read along with it. The gloss has gotten a little bit out of alignment here, unfortunately for Shanghai. But so basically, this speaker. So the context is a young woman who's been abandoned by her parents, is living alone in a house, and a tiger comes around, and the tiger wants to devour the young woman, and keeps asking her, "Oh friend, where are you going to sleep tonight?" And so she tells him, "Oh, I'm going to sleep in such and such a place." But she's not stupid. She knows that the tiger wants to eat her. So instead she goes and sleeps in some other location, and the tiger comes and looks for her in this case. So she's told the tiger that she's going to sleep on the fireplace shelf. So the shelf that sits above the hearth in the house, but she's gone somewhere else. And so the tiger is foiled. He's unable to get her in this situation. And the speaker could have said, Tuidung, Laong, and Shaibi here simply, rather than saying Tuidung, tongue-tied, Tuidung, Laong, Shabi Shara. Instead of saying all of that, she could have said it more simply with just the basic words. But instead, she's used what I call the elaborations of these words. And it'll be clear to you that some of these seem to involve some sort of reduplication, which I'll talk about in a second. Shaibi Shora, however, doesn't. So Shaibi Shora doesn't actually mean the plates and bowls, it means the plates, simply. If you wanted to talk about if you wanted to elaborate bowl, you would have to use Shori Shora. It would be a different type of construction. So often these have a ABAC or an ABCB, which in Kumi is rarer sort of structure. So the Tui one, the water gourd elaborate expression, has an ABAC structure because Tui is A, B is D, sorry, Tui A, D, B, Tui A, Dung, C. And you can do a similar sort of thing for the one at the bottom for the ABCB, where the Na syllable is the one that's repeated. So Nina Tongna. That one less clearly involves reduplication, though, you'll notice. And Kumi also has monosyllabic elaborations, either involving reduplication or not. So here's a pair that's one of my favorites. Mai is fire, a root that you'll probably recognize. The elaborate expression for fire is mimai, and it makes use of one of a couple of default reduplicative patterns that can be used for forming elaborate expressions in many cases. And the way it works is you remove the rhyme from the last syllable of the base or the word that you're trying to elaborate and replace it with the rhyme e. Tuduiti dun also involved that very same template. The elaboration for water, however, is mai, fire. This doesn't involve reduplication. So it involves a different strategy for forming the elaborate expression. But it's like with shabi shara, having to do only with plates and not with bowls, tui mai never has to do in context with fire. It's only used by speakers when they're referring to water and not fire. So that's essentially the way these work. There are also elaborations which are non-reduplicative, which have one or another source. So one of the sources is related words. So one of my favorite elaborations is, elaborate expressions is kashi lo. So lo is moon. And to elaborate it, you put it together with the word for star, kashi. So kashi lo is moon. It is never used in a context where speakers are referring to the star and the moon. So that's even clearer in the case of uikalai, which is literally dog monkey. But monkey is, so this is the little red colored rhesus macaque monkey. This doesn't refer to monkeys, it refers to dogs. And I have a story for why this elaborate expression occurs, which you can ask me about in the questions if you remember to, but I won't go into it now, it's a little bit long. So the ones here at the bottom, bloktiung, sorry, wrong term, bloktiung, and choplo. So cotton, sesame seed means cotton, rice, cotton means rice. And so these are all things which grow in the Jum field. So the elaboration in all of these examples is taken from a similar semantic or lexical domain. Tuimai also probably is the same sort of thing. Then there are, in some cases, elaborations which are nonces, or potentially they're older roots whose meaning is lost. Kalai, the monkey word, which we just saw in the previous slide, takes an elaboration of the form kalung. Kalung kalai is the elaborate expression for monkey. You'll notice a few of these. It seems like the minor syllable of the word that's being elaborated is a part of the nonce. So that also is quasi-reduplicative, although in a more complicated way, perhaps. But not all of these nonce formations involve reduplicative-like structures. So you remember Kashilo is moon. To elaborate star, you use a nonce element toke, which doesn't seem to mean anything. It may be related to a word for a species of small silver-colored lizard, but its origin is obscure. Sometimes borrowings are the source of these elaborations. So Marma is a variety of Arakanese spoken locally that virtually all Kumi speakers in Bangladesh are also virtual native speakers of, are very proficient in Marma. So in these borrowings, a loan word from Marma is used as the elaboration. So Akeng is time in Marma, and Ning is the Kumi word. and for some reason that speakers can't understand prison town, which actually probably looks like might be a Marma loan word itself from way back. It's elaborated with the word pond in Marma, Gaing, right? So who knows? And similar to borrowing from a foreign language, the elaboration can also be taken from song language. So like many other languages in the area, the language that's used in song is completely different from language that's used in spoken discourse. So essentially all of the lexical, I think the grammar is about the same in Kumi's song language, but the grammatical elements and the lexical items all have alternative words, basically. And so xiong is a word for, it's one of the words used for flowers. There are other flower words, but kurai is the equivalent word in song language. So xiong kurai is the elaborate expression for this word for flower. Now, elaboration typically involves nouns, but it can also apply to verbal elements. Trying to keep an eye on the time here. And I just want to say a couple of words about the functions of elaboration. So if you ask speakers of Kumi, what are they doing with these elaborations? They'll say that it sounds good. And this is a frequently cited function of the use of elaborate expressions in Southeast Asian languages. So Haas and Matisoff both comment on this. It's a sign of elegance in speaking or sophistication in speaking. So if you actually look at where the elaborate expressions are used by speakers in discourse, though, you can find some other patterns. So in my corpus for Kumi, and this also holds for other languages of the area that I know have it, it's often used where there's repetition, so where there's an iterative or frequentative aspect involved, or plurality, where there are multiple participants involved in an action, or intensification, so when something happens intensively, and feeding off of that, there's a category that I recognize as emotional intensification. So when either the storyteller or a particular participant in the event experiences some particularly intense emotion, so sadness or sentimentality. Very interesting functions for these things. But to get back to the point of the talk, so the consequence of this phenomenon for lexical documentation, I hope it will be clear to you. Basically, since the elaboration for a given word is unpredictable, lexical documentation should include information on how elaborate expressions are formed for given lexical items. So in a given language, there actually might not be an elaborate expression for every word of the language. So it's very productive in Kumi. And I'm not, I haven't done a community survey to find whether everybody agrees that this word can be elaborated in this way. That's one of the complications of actually performing this task of evaluating what are the elaborate expression formation strategies used for given words. But in a given language, you might have a reductive template that will possibly apply to lots of words, but then the other words will do it some other way, and you have to verify for every word that potentially will form an elaborate expression how it's done in order to record this information in your documentation. So just very quickly, Mru, language also spoken, as I said, in the far south hill tracts in Bangladesh. Sorry, the gloss has gotten a little bit out of alignment here for some reason. So this speaker could have said Mangpa Woi instead of saying Rengpa Woi, Mangpa Woi. So he's used reng in addition to mang, which is the elaboration for mang. And this particular example also shows you the kind of loose nature of the compounding that's involved here. So if a particular syntactic context requires you to separate the parts of the elaborate expression, that can be done. And to bring things back to Northeast India more clearly, Linda Connerth in her, I think this was also in her dissertation probably, but definitely in her most recent grammar, She recognizes this notion of elaborate expression for accounting for similar phenomenon in Karbi. So in this example here, from my understanding, Bei could be used by itself, but it's got an elaborate expression, an elaboration here, which is ri. So Bei ri is used instead of Bei in this particular context. So let me turn to the second thing, and hopefully I will be able to fit it in about the next 9 to 10 minutes or so. Oops, I lost my clock. There we go. So then that is something which has various names, and Professor Chelia in her talk a few weeks ago touched on this, but hopefully I'll be saying something a little bit different about it this time around. So Henderson, in her work with Tadim, this is based on work on Burmese that a student of hers was doing, Justin Watkins recently told me, talks about a notion of chiming, which Bhaskara Rao also used to account for this phenomenon. And then Patent referred to this phenomenon as idiophones in talking about Hakalai. So these are essentially often reduplicative or maybe two-syllable elements that occur in a post-verbal position, and they often have something to do with the size of a participant, and if you use one vowel set in the element, it refers to a large participant. If you use a different vowel, it refers to or vowel set, it refers to a small participant. They also have lots of other semantic nuances associated with them, and so it's not completely, I think, crazy for Patent to use this term idiophone for them. They really have very vivid imagery for speakers in the languages that have them typically, and so the only qualm I would have with calling them idiophones is that I think there's another category which I won't get to talk about, but please ask me about it, that I think we might call idiophone instead, although there are other words that we could use for that category as well. I prefer the term verbal classifiers for these because it really seems that the notion of largeness versus smallness is central in these, at least in a figurative sense. So it might have to do with, greater extent or lesser extent of some quality. So I refer to these as augmentative and diminutive. And another reason I want to refer to these as verbal classifiers, but why I want to call them verbal classifiers specifically, is because this is a cross-linguistically recognized category. So it allows us to think about, what do these systems have in relation to other languages that are claimed to have verbal classifiers, right? So for comparative purposes, I think it's useful to call these something which is similar to what the other languages outside of South Central and outside of Tibeto-Burman have. And again, I'm sorry, the glosses here are misaligned. I don't know what's happened here. So I don't have a recording here, but so in this context, there are two very large eagles landing, and they're landing on the branch of the banyan tree in front of the house, right? So they came and they landed, and the speaker calls them the wife and the husband. There's a male and a female eagle. We know these are really big eagles because in some earlier piece of the text, they consumed a human being live, an adult human being. So that they just swallowed him whole. So they're very big, and so when they land, the speaker uses what I gloss as an augmentative verbal classifier with these, because the size of the eagles is relatively large. So the speaker says "chungpa" and "chungpa" for both the wife and the husband. So in the second example, which is from a different story, this is a bulbul landing, so a considerably smaller bird landing on the deck railing. So the speaker here says, with the same verb, "chung bote," right? So instead of "ba," which we saw here with a large participant, we've got "bo" with a small participant. So I refer to this as a diminutive verbal classifier because it has to do with the relative small size of the participant. Now, These Kumi verbal classifiers are usually monosyllabic, and that mystified me or kept me in the dark about these things for months, because I didn't realize what I could compare them to elsewhere in South Central. But they can also occur in reduplicated form. And these actually aren't examples with reduplicated forms, but they are kind of longer structures, which is typical elsewhere in the subgroup. So in Lai, this is my favorite example of these things. So kakcha avakwatma means the baby crawls around, and the notion that a person has when they say this or hear this is that it's a big fat baby, as opposed to kakcha avakyatma. So you change the vowel in the first syllable of the postverbal element, and it suddenly becomes a smaller, thin baby that's crawling around. So Mru also has this, I've left the tones off here, I'm sorry to say. This is an ogre who is sitting. So an ogre is a kind of humanoid with grotesque features who consumes humans. So it's a kind of spirit in the aerial folklore. So this is a relatively large creature, and so when she sits, the speaker uses the augmentative verbal classifier krara. So yeah, you could barely hear the debate in there because the speaker is speaking so quickly, but that's just what Mru sounds like. So now there are two other elements in Mru, kruru and grora. So kruru would be used if it was a relatively small participant. Grora would be used if it was even bigger than a participant that you would use grara for. So in certain cases, Mru even has 3 different degrees. So super augmentative, I guess we could call the krara. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to play that again. Now, one other point about these before I hopefully move to my conclusion very quickly. So it's not predictable which verbal class. So I've identified around 100 or 120 verbal classifiers so far, and I'm sure there are more that haven't occurred in my corpus. It's unpredictable what predicates they can occur with, what verbs they can be used together with. And they might have slightly different interpretations depending on what predicate they're involved with. But if you look from one predicate to the next, one verb to the next, you generally see some similarity in what they mean. But I've only looked at this for a few predicates in full, so run a given verb through an entire list of 120 elements to see what possibilities there are. And even doing that, a speaker who I'm consulting with might not have been able to think of a situation where a particular classifier could be used. So there might be more, but you can see some of the examples here. And so just to take the 2 that I have highlighted in blue, so tela, something comes out once just for a second. And the best example of what might do this, the speaker I was consulting with said, would be lightning. Now, in order to say this in English, we wouldn't say the lightning comes out once just for a second. We would say the lightning flashed or the lightning flashes, right? So there's a very specific verb in English that corresponds to this combination of straightforward predicate. So tell means to come out, or to emerge is probably a better way of expressing it. So this predicate plus verbal classifier gives you what in English would be translated with a very specific sort of verb. Teoya, the second example in blue here, to come out of a lot of something like blood. Well, in English, I think probably the verb that comes to mind first would be gush. Of course, it's not just blood that gushes, water can also gush, so it's not quite exactly the same, but it's a similar sort of situation. And so as you're doing lexical documentation, this is something that ought to be taken into account. And so depending on what kind of a dictionary it is, this is something you need to think about. So consequences for lexical documentation: since it's not predictable what verbal classifiers may occur with a given predicate and what their exact semantic effect is, this is information that we should include in lexical documentation. And so you have to think about how can this be organized in our lexical documentation. So I envision for Teo, if it was Kumi to English or whatever, it would be Teo, and then there would be a lot of sub possibilities under Teo, depending on what verbal classifier is used in conjunction with them. And you would have to address that for all of the predicates in your database, right? So that is, again, one of the reasons that I haven't managed yet to do justice to the lexical documentation of the languages that I work with. So the other things I wanted to talk about, I'm going to try to cut myself off here in just a couple of minutes. The reason I hesitated to call these verbal classifiers idiophones is because there is something that's more idiophone-like in languages generally, and I can talk about that. Bound adverbial elements that Krishna Boro and Profilo Basamatari have a nice paper on in the Berling Festschrift. Those are another aspect of lexicalizing you any examples here, I'm afraid. Hopefully it was just the directionals. So bound adverbial elements were one thing that I mentioned there in case I was unstable. So focus particles that Krishna Boro gave a very nice talk about in the Tabani series recently. And interjections are another thing that I would not have been able to get to. Let me turn to the methodological issues, which are basically my conclusion or kind of a pre-conclusion. Except for verbal classifiers, direct translational elicitation, so where you say a sentence in English to a speaker and ask them to translate it to you, that's unlikely to reveal these elements. If you're a native speaker of a language, then hopefully, this talk has given you something to think about in terms of your own language, because native speakers, if they realize what they're looking for, they can easily find these things. So if you're a native speaker working on your own language, then you don't need to worry about that. You can probably think of things. But whether you're a native speaker or not, it's definitely recommended that you use texts for accessing this information. And specifically, what types of texts for getting at aspects of this lexicon depends on what type of information, lexical information it is that you're interested in. So elaborate expressions, I found, really occur in just about every kind of text. So they occur in narrative discourse, they occur in procedural discourse where somebody's explaining how to do something. They occur in conversation, most readily in narrative, but they occur in all these other genres of discourse as well. For some things, especially things like information status markers and interjections, conversation is the best thing to look at. And I just, as a last point, want to point out that conversation is really difficult to work with. It takes a lot longer to process conversational text material than it does for other discourse genres. I generally tell students it would take you about twice as long to process a minute of conversation compared to something like a folk tale. But in a lot of languages of the area, and I think this is true for all of the Kuki-Chin languages that I've worked with, when characters in a narrative talk to each other, they're actually speaking in the normal way that they would talk to each other in conversation. So there's directly quoted speech embedded in narrative, and this can be a very useful thing for accessing conversational patterns. There are other things as well that I can mention if you ask me about them in just a minute. So just to conclude with some optimism though. So when we think about dictionaries, we might think about, a dictionary that looks like this, or a dictionary that looks like this, but nowadays, I think there's really no reason for us not to be very liberal in our incorporation of audiovisual features into our lexical documentations. So images, possibly even videos, and definitely sound recordings ought to be part of this. And we're very fortunate that the technology now allows us to do this. And it allows us to do this not just in a kind of static way, but in a virtual way. So we can basically just put all of our lexical documentations onto the internet. As Tangi Changte pointed out on the first day of the webinar, there's really a high potential for community involvement in projects that deal with things like lexical documentation. And so I'm not going to say anything about those because I haven't really experimented much with them myself yet. But I hope to in the years to come, and I hope that you will as well. And I hope that this talk has given you some food for thought, and especially for people who go to Neil's and to future webinars. I hope you'll think about some of these topics in your languages, the languages you speak and the languages that you investigate. And I look forward to hearing about what your languages have to say. So thank you again to everybody.
So thank you so much, Professor, for such an enlightening, wonderful plenary. Now, with due permission of the speaker, may we invite queries, suggestions, and feedback from the esteemed audience for an open discussion about the plenary. So anyone, please, from the audience?
Yeah, may I? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, David, for that elaborative talk on lexical documentation. I really enjoy it, and I learned many new things. It's very simple thing that I want to know. In your glossing, you are using one apostrophe. So what does that stand for?
Yeah. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. It probably came up in the last talk as well.
Yeah.
So the apostrophe, I use it for two things. So I usually use apostrophe to indicate a glottal stop. If a language has a glottal stop, that'll usually occur at the end of a syllable, unless there's actual reason to think that seemingly vowel initial syllables have to start with a glottal stop. The main way that it was used in this talk, though, was in indicating the boundary between a minor syllable and a major syllable in a sesquisyllabic structure. So, like in kulung kalai,
Okay.
the monkey elaborate expression, right? So K apostrophe L U N G kulung, and K apostrophe L A Y kalai. So it's maybe given a slight schwa pronunciation. In a given language, it might actually have if you ask a speaker to say it slowly enough, they might give you a copy of the vowel of the main syllable, depending on the language and possibly also depending on the speaker.
Okay.
Is that clear? Is that clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
That's my clear.
Yeah. The superscript numerals are tones.
Okay. Yeah. That's understandable.
Yeah. So that's a separate.
Okay. Yeah.
And the umlauts, and the circle over the A and kumi, those are just different vowel qualities. So U with an umlaut is U, O with an umlaut is A with a circle is A, and E with a circle is E, which is a vowel in between E and A.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 high front vowels in kumi.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Vijay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So.
Yeah, Lindra, can I ask a short question?
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
sir.
thank you, sir, for that interesting presentation. I just had a I think you did explain the functions of the elaborate expressions. I think plurality or something was there. So in your gloss, you usually gloss it as plurals. So is this something which is the replacement, or how is it opposed to plural marking? Is one thing, and the second was your examples. I also saw the ordering of the elaborate expression and the stem. It's not always. Sometimes it precedes, and sometimes it follows. So
Oh,
whether
yeah,
there's
yeah.
any reason for this.
So, yeah, so, sorry, you muted yourself on the last bit there, Tensa.
No, I think you're muted. Actually, while muting Ganga, I think I accidentally muted you.
Oops.
Oh, okay.
So just
But
the last part. Yeah, just so let me so the directionality, right? So the headedness. So I actually use the term head to refer to the portion of an elaborate expression which is not the elaboration, right? So the part that actually gives you the semantics of the construction, right? So so the head can be either on the left or it can be on the right. And as far as I know, I'll have to look at it again because I don't recall that I ever really looked at it super systematically. But I don't know that there's any rhyme or reason to it. I think it's kind of random whether it occurs on the left or the right. But that's a good point. I don't think so. I have a paper on this in Himalayan linguistics, and I don't think I address that. I just say, oh, it can be either left or right-headed. So thanks for that question. That's an interesting idea. I don't know that there's any rhyme or reason to it. I think that it's just arbitrary. As to the issue of plurality, so Kumi is not a language that marks plurality very well in a strict sense. So it's got various post-nominal markers which give you notions of collectivity, you know, of various sorts. It doesn't have participant marking. Well, it doesn't have extensive participant marking that reflects plurality or singularity. But I don't look at that as something which is a real motivation for using an elaborate expression. So it's not like it drives the choice in a given circumstance to use or not use an elaborate expression, as far as I've been able to tell. I should mention there is one post-verbal element which it resembles the South Central post-verbal "oo" plural element. If you're familiar enough with the post-verbal paradigm in South Central Tibeto-Burman, you'll know what I'm talking about. And it's primarily used in imperatives. But it can also be used. It can also be used in declaratives. So that is actually a way to indicate plurality. Yeah, so related to that, though, it occurs to me that some of the verbal classifiers, some of them also have a sense of as a group. So they also do something related to plurality. But I don't think that the elaborate expressions are strictly required in order to indicate plurality as opposed to singularity. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the question. Very interesting.
Any more question, please? So Professor, can I ask a couple of questions myself?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is Alindra. So the first one is, the elaborations look like they have much lexical values.
Like what?
You know,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
They look like what?
They look like they have much lexical values. Lexical
So,
values. Yeah.
the elaborations do? You mean
Yeah.
they're not just? You mean they're not simply reduplications?
Yeah. So then the expressives actually, in comparison to expressives, then the expressives which usually do not have much lexical values. So do you think elaborations are part of expressives? This is my first question. Yeah. Then the other one actually,
Can I answer the first question first, because I'll forget the details of it.
Please.
So the
Yeah.
so I prefer to regard expressives as a separate type of category. And if I can, let me reshare my screen here and go back a bit. So, oops, can everybody see that? Okay, Oli, can you see that? Can Monali, can you tell me? Can you see that? Okay.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, so in lots of languages, I think that there is a separate category that we might call, so I call it onomatopoetic, but it might easily be called idiophonic, and another term that's used widely in Southeast Asia is expressive. And so these usually have to do with sounds, or they have to do with motions, or possibly feelings. And so, for instance, in Kumi, this example, this is a story in which some guys have some bows, like bows and arrows, and a mouse comes and is chewing on them at night so that they'll break, and they'll be unable to use them the next day. And there's this, I mean, it's actually 6 syllables long, and it's a gnawing sound. And this fits into this category of onomatopoetic words, or you know, idiophones or expressives. I'd also be happy to call these, and they occur typically in a particular construction in Kumi. They occur in a kind of quotative structure with the quotative marker n. So there might also be some verb that occurs embedded between the n and the te, and so. So these really are quite different, both in their form and in their use from elaborate expressions. Elaborate expressions are simply used in the same location that a word would normally be used in. They don't involve this additional machinery. But here's a list of, you know, this is just a small list. This is probably an open category in the language, you know, with probably hundreds of different elements in it. So some of my favorite, so krikra krikra is the sound of walking on a split bamboo deck. So the platform in front of a house of a traditional sort, or it's the sound of grinding teeth. And these don't just have to do with sounds, they can also have to do with emotions. So if you look down in the middle, hu 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 is the sound of flames, I guess roaring or maybe crackling, I'm not sure which. But it's also the feeling of getting angry. I think this came up. This came up in definitely somebody's talk. Maybe it was a Tabani talk, or maybe it was Professor Chelia's talk. This association between fire and the emotion of anger. My absolute favorite one, though, is lilong lilong, which is the motion of bamboos waving in the breeze. So if you're familiar with that motion, you know what I'm talking about. So these are very different, and they occur in a different sort of syntactic construction from expressive. So I wouldn't want to say that they're the same thing. But it's a good point, though, that the expressives really don't. The expressives or idiophones or onomatopoetic words. They really have an arbitrary sound. Well, may not be totally, they are sound symbolic in a sense, so that's not totally arbitrary, but they're more arbitrary than the elaborate expressions, which at least in some cases have some kind of semantic motivation, or in lots of cases the elaborate, I should say probably the vast majority of elaborate expressions are done using the reduplicative template, so that it's just a kind of mechanical operation to form them. Oli, does that answer the question adequately? Is it?
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Yeah.
You had a second one.
The second one actually, as we can see, the elaborations you have presented here are a kind of compounds that are formed using at least 2 lexical items. Do they sometimes denote collective meanings, like we cly? Is it right? We cly.
Yeah, we cly.
Yeah,
so
rather than just meaning.
Do you want to know?
Than, yeah.
Yeah. So let me
rather than just meaning dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than just the meaning dog, does it mean dog and monkey?
No.
I mean sometimes.
No, not sometimes. It doesn't.
Okay.
To say dogs and monkeys, you would have to use the conjunction construction, right? So these are not like the that phenomenon which occurs elsewhere in South Asia. So so like some kind of coordinative compound, right? So it just means dogs, and the same thing for tuimai, meaning just water, and yeah. So that's the simple answer there for that. But you remind me though that I can explain why we and Kalai maybe are associated with each other. There's a folktale in which some dogs get some monkeys and they have some adventures with those monkeys. Or sorry, so it's vice versa. Some monkeys get some dogs and they have some adventures with those dogs. But that may be some motivation for why this elaborate expression is set up the way it is, because otherwise it's kind of random. Dogs and monkeys. Why would they're both animals of some sort. They're both edible. So I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Yeah. So, any more queries or suggestion from the audience? Dr. Monali, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah. So, should we have a couple of queries? More queries, or we can go straight forward to the next?
Yeah, I think we can proceed with the next presentation. And after that, if there are any more questions, then we can continue the discussion session right after their presentation, because that's the only one presentation for today.
So thank you so much, Professor. This is really a very important topic, which is actually recently gaining momentum in linguistics. So we can proceed to the next paper. Now we have another speaker,
Thank you very much.
Dr. Daimai Gaichun. Yeah. Thank you, Professor. Now we have another speaker, Dr. Daimai Gaichun from Don Bosco College, Manipur, who is supposed to speak on pronouns in Liang Mai, another Tibeto-Burman language spoken in Senapati and Tamenglong districts of Manipur, and also spoken in the parent district of Nagaland. But unfortunately, he's not that well to come on screen. Right, Monali?
Yes. He's very unwell. He has high fever.
Okay. So now we are now moving towards the last presentation of the webinar. The topic is on the vowels of Chokri and Pochuri languages spoken in Krek district of Nagaland. The speakers are Vikosanu Kochu and Kenesenuo Mephuo from the Center for Naga Tribal Language Studies of Nagaland University, Kohima. On behalf of the organizer and the collaborator, I take the privilege to welcome both of them to come on screen and speak on the topic. Thank you.
Yeah, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson. And good evening to all. My name is Vikosanu Kotsu, and I'm a research scholar from CNTLS Nagaland University. And tonight, I believe we will be the last presenters for this international webinar. And tonight, as you can see, I will be presenting along with my fellow friend, Kenisenyo Mephuo, who is also a research scholar from CNTLS. And the topic of our presentation is on the vowels of Chokri and Pochuri of Peck District. So before I go to the next slide, Chokri is a language spoken by the Chagasang tribe, and Pochuri is the language spoken by the Pochuri people of Peck District. Okay. So I'll just give a brief introduction of the district about the tribes. So Peg district, it is situated at the southeastern part of Nagaland, and they are inhabited by the Puchuris and the Chakasang Nagas. And in smaller quantities, there are also Pumai, Sami, and Nepali speakers as well. Puchuri is located on the east and Chakasang on the west. So Peg district is the 8th district of Nagaland with 111 villages. The three main linguistic groups, according to 2001 census in Peg district, are Chokri, Keja, and Puchuri. And according to 2011 census, they have a total population of 163,294, and where Chokri constitutes the majority of the population with 87,847, and Puchuri with 21,654. The term Chakasang, it is an acronym of the three subtribes. That is Cha for either Chakru or Chokri as they call, K for Keja, and Sang for Sangtam Puchuri. The Chakasangs were also known as the Eastern Angamis. The term Puchuri, it is also an acronym of the last syllables of three villages, namely Sapo, Kachu, and Quiri, hence the name Puchuri. Now, in the colonial era, the Britishers described the Puchuris as the Eastern Sangtam or Southern Rengma as well. Now, later on, the Chagasan tribe, they separated from the Angamis in August 1946, while Puchuri separated from the Chagasangs in 1991 as a separate scheduled tribe by the Census of India. This is the map of Peg district. On the right map, there are two circled areas, and these are the villages of our informants or consultants from whom we have collected the data, but these informants are currently residing in Kohima at present. So these two villages, they have a distance of about 100 kilometers away from each other. In the genetic classification, Berling has classified these two languages in the Angami Puchuri group. For the data preparation and the speakers information, so we took about a 70 word list and around 160 sentences each for this small research for the phoneme inventory of the vowels. And so one speaker each. For the Chokri consultant, she's from the Pulami village, and for Puchuri, the speaker is from the Maluri village, and it is to be and for the Puchuri data, the data were collected from the Maluri variety, which is the standardized variety and the lingua franca of the tribe. I will be presenting on the vowels of Chokri, and later on, my friend will be presenting on the vowels of Puchuri. So like most of the Tibeto-Burman languages, Chokri also have front, central, and back vowels. This is the phoneme inventory. And in this study, I have found 7 vowels, where 5 of these, they are used in free variation. I have also referred to Bilenberg's and also Dr. Mimi Izong's work, who have both worked on Chokri phonology. And Bilenberg, he has presented 6 vowels in Chokri, and these are the vowels. And while Dr. Mimi also showed, Mimi showed 7 vowels, and these are the vowels. Now, in these 2 findings, I found that the central vowel differed, and the central vowels were very different in all of our 3 findings. So later on, I will be in the next slides. I will be talking about that. The vowel, one of the central vowel, which is the close mid central unrounded sound. This is the vowel different from Bilenberg's and Mimi Izong's work. And in one of my earlier presentations, I have presented this, and still I'm still working on the acoustic work. And in today's paper, I have not presented the acoustic data. However, it is still in process. So later on, I will show how these sounds are occurring in the language. So in the vowel distribution, the front vowel E, it is this vowel occurs in the initial, medial, and final position, and is shown in these examples. I think I don't need to go through the examples. Okay, and the next vowel, open mid front unrounded vowel A, it can also be used in free variation with the vowel, the closed mid front unrounded vowel A, and it occurs in medial and final position only. This variation, it occurs in medial and final position only. The central vowels, Chokri central vowels, Billenberg, he has also claimed that the central vowels of Chokri posed so many difficulties in identifying them. And however, he has claimed and he has presented that the close central unrounded vowel it appears in free distribution with the schwa, with the mid-central vowel. But in my study, in this research, I have not found this vowel to be in free distribution with the schwa. Instead, it showed invariant feature and occurs in obviously initial, medial, and final position. And why I say that it showed invariant feature is because when I asked my informant to say this sound or to say this particular word, for example, the word black, "utu." So I told her to repeat it several times and then used in sentences. But in every situation, the sound did not change. So I came to the opinion that I believe that this vowel sound cannot be changed with cannot be in free distribution with the schwa sound. But however, this schwa sound appears in free distribution with the next vowel, the vowel which I claim for now, which I claim that it's there, and this close mid central vowel it appeared in free distribution with the schwa sound. So it did not matter whether my informant said usa or usa. So I don't know if you can hear the differences, but yeah, so my informant can clearly understand what I am saying, the meaning, the semantic meaning of the word. And the next vowel, the fairly open central unrounded vowel a, it can be produced as the open front unrounded vowel a in free variation again. Now it occurs in initial, medial, and final position. These are the examples. So just like the other examples, other vowels, central vowels, this vowel also did not show any difference of the meaning when used interchangeably. Coming to back vowels, Blemberg, he has said that the oo sound, it corresponded with the close back unrounded sound oo. However, I found that this sound, the back rounded sound oo, it corresponded more to the fairly close, fairly back vowel in free variation only in the initial position of the words. Now the vowel occurs in initial, medial, and final position. However, in this sound, the first example in the initial position, my informant, she pronounces it like uro at one time, and she will pronounce it in another time. She will be pronounce it as uro. So I think it's so this sound is in it goes back and forth with these two sounds. So yeah. And then the last back vowel, the close mid back rounded vowel o, it is also produced in free variation with the open mid back rounded vowel o, and it occurs in initial, medial, and final position. So in all this position, the vowels can be used interchangeably. So it just the semantic meaning doesn't change. And coming to the diphthong, in this paper, I found just one diphthong in Chokri, that is the sound ye, and it can appear as a word also with no consonant and can have a semantic meaning on its own, and it occurs in word, medial, and final position. Now, I have also seen in Matisov's work that he has presented Jalin Yenu's work of 1990. I do not have the script with me, but he said that there were two diphthongs in Chokri, namely ye and o. But of course, ye sound, it's there, I found it, but the o sound, I did not find any sound as such so far. But with more data collection, I hope I can refer to this to his work. Billenberg, in his work, he did not record any diphthong of Chokri. So for the diphthong, these are the only words and the only examples I can provide so far. Okay, so coming to vowel minimal pairs, I will not be going through line by line because next presenter is on the line. So these are the vowel minimal pairs in monophthongs in more than one syllable, showing the phonemic differences. And these are the front versus central. This is the central versus back. And these are the front versus back examples. Okay, so that will be all for Chokri. I will hand over the rest of the time to my friend Kinisenyo Nafo for the vowels of Puchuri.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll just get into the vowels of Puchuri. So in this paper, I've recorded 8 vowels, and this is the phoneme inventory of the Puchuri vowels. I've referred to Marison 1967 work on Mallory. He has also presented his data based on the Mallory variety, and my data is also based on the Mallory variety. So he has recorded 6 vowels, and I've also referred to Dr. Izung's work, and she has recorded 8 vowels. And however, my vowels are different from Izung's work in that I have treated the high central vowel U and the schwa to be in free variation, and the high central rounded vowel to be the 8th vowel. But I don't have any acoustic proof for the 8th vowel yet. So, Vico, can you please go to the next slide?
Yeah, please wait. Okay.
Okay, so this this is the vowel distribution. The high front vowel can occur in word initial, medial, and final positions. And the high mid front vowel can occur in word medial and final positions. So these are the examples. And the low mid front vowel can occur in word medial and final positions. And the central vowel R appears to be in free variation with the open mid back vowel R. So this vowel can stand alone as a word without any consonants, as given in the example here, R, which means yes in English, and it can occur in word initial, medial, and final positions. So these are the examples. The high central vowel U also appears to be in free variation with the schwa, and it can occur in the medial and final positions. So as you can see from the examples given here. And the high central rounded vowel can also occur in the medial and the final positions. So these are the examples. Coming to the back vowels, the high back rounded vowel U can occur in the word medial and final positions. And also the open mid back rounded vowel appears to be in free variation with the closed mid back rounded O vowel, and it can occur in the medial and final positions. And also I would like to point out that only the high front vowel E and the central vowel A can occur in the initial position. However, the rest of the vowels only occurs in the medial and final positions. And in the preliminary study of the speech sounds of the Naga languages by Dr. Mimi Izung, she has recorded one diphthong in the language. However, in this study, I have found three diphthongs, e, a, and u. And the first diphthong, which is also recorded in Dr. Izung's work, can occur in the medial and final positions, as we can see from the examples here. And the second diphthong, it occurs in the final positions only. And the third diphthong, u, occurs in medial position. So these are the pairs which presents the phonemic contrast between the vowels. And for both Chokri and Puchuri, the words with different tones are treated as near minimal pairs, and the minimal pairs are presented based on the part of the tongue raised and the height of the tongue. So these are the minimal pairs, front versus central, front versus back, and central versus back. Yeah, these are more minimal pairs. Yeah, so in conclusion, in this study, we have recorded 7 vowels in Chokri and 8 vowels in Puchuri. They both have front, central, and back vowels. They both have the high central vowel U, which shows invariant features in Chokri, but appears to be in free distribution with the central mid vowel U in Puchuri. And Puchuri, as compared to Chokri, seems to be richer in diphthongs with three diphthongs and 1 diphthong in Chokri. And we have found that both the languages are rich in central vowels. However, like other researchers, we have find difficulty in identifying them. And so we need a more extensive and acoustic research to support our findings. And so I would also like to say that this paper is an extraction from our ongoing PhD research work. So there is room for improvement, and any kind of suggestion or advices will be highly appreciated. And these are our references. Thank you all. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, madam, for a wonderful presentation on the topic. Now it is time to invite queries, suggestions, and feedback from the audience to have a discussion on the talk. So, any queries, suggestions, feedback, please.
Can I come in, sir?
Yes, sir, please.
Uh, it is not a query, but I just missed the part of diphthongs, 2 and 3 diphthongs, finding 2 and 3 diphthongs. That part I missed it. Can she? Will you be? Kindly repeat that. That the other one finds 2 diphthongs, and you have found 3 diphthongs.
Okay. Okay. For sir, is it for Puchuri?
I have no idea, Pochuri, or I missed the talk. because of my network problem.
Oh, okay. I think Kenny can say that again.
Sir, one diphthong was found in Dr. Izung's work, but in this study, I have found three diphthongs, a, and u. So these are the examples. The never, which means above in English, Hyezo, which means near in English, and kusukerie, which means once in English. And the second diphthong a, it occurs in the final positions. Kutei, which means to get up in English. Achumei, which means crocodile in English. And the third diphthong u, it occurs in the middle position. Tsokua reni, which means weather in English. Inyopa, which means brother in English, a brother-in-law in English. So
Yes, in that part you said o as a
yes.
o as a diphthong. O, can it not be o uh, say a low tone, o low tone o, or you said u o or o low.
According to how my consultant has pronounced the word, I'm of the opinion that it's a diphthong with the u and o sound together. Reni.
Yes, u and o together. Uh, Sometimes it makes a, a tone like uh, low tone of o also, whether it is a elongated uh, sound of o or not in the lower tone. O, o. So, uh, have you looked into that? O, the lower tone of o.
Sure, that it didn't occur to me. So with in my future data collection, I would keep that in mind, sir, and I will confirm it. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Can I ask one question related to what Uncle Mosil has mentioned here? Um, could it be that this diphthong is not a diphthong, but actually it's a labialized O? And could it be that this vowel A is followed by a phonological process of palatalization? Could it be that, which is why maybe Dr. Mimi found only one diphthong, which is EA, which is very clear, not EA. Maybe you could try to look at other words and other minimal pairs to uh, test these two diphthongs that you have identified.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you, ma'am. I will keep that in mind. Yeah, I will look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any more queries?
Yeah, just maybe one small comment. Thank you for the
Please.
very clear, I think, presentation. I just had a comment with Chokri. Yeah, I think the first one, the Chokri,
Yes.
again, diphthong.
Yes. Sir.
So again, just the possibility that I saw that in your examples. I think you had 4 or 5 examples,
Yeah.
and all examples except for the first one
Yeah.
uh, had a alveolar nasal, right? No. So given the environment, there's this possibility that the maybe it's a palatalized nasal. So I don't know, you may have other examples, but
Mm.
if all of your diphthongs are occurring, ear is occurring only with the nasal, then
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
a high possibility that maybe it's a palatalized n, something like a nia, nie.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. It also occurred to me that it could be that palatalized nasal. And however, my informant was so clear with the sound, but then I will look into it. I will look into it, and I will try to gather more the sounds of the diphthongs. And since it occurs with the nasalized only, I will try to look into that part. Thank you, sir.
Any more queries, please? So from my side, I have one query as well as one suggestion actually. So may I?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah, actually, in the this is not about the vowels of the languages.
Okay.
This is about the languages. Actually, in the census of India,
Yeah.
2011, Sakesang and Chokri, these two are recorded as two different languages. But you told in the introduction that Chokri is also known as Sakesang. So is it right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did that. Yeah,
Okay,
I mentioned that.
okay, yeah. And the other one actually is a suggestion. You can update about the number of speakers with 2011 census report, which is already
Yes, sir.
available. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. I actually presented it from the 2011 census report,
Yeah.
and
But I could see you told the number of speakers of Pochuri from
yes.
2001, I think,
Um.
in the introduction. Yeah,
Okay. Sir, let me just share my slide, and I'll
yeah, yeah.
I will look. Okay. Um. Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Over here.
18,000,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
18,307. Okay,
Uh.
okay. You put
Yeah. Yeah.
both. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, yes,
I've
yes,
given both.
yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, Sakisang is different according to you or the same?
Sir, according to me, I think Chegasang is the name of the tribe because
Okay.
as I've mentioned here that this term is an acronym of the three sub-tribes from Chokri, Keja, and Sangtam. So I think Chegasang is the general term for the people, and Chokri
Okay.
is one of their languages. Yeah.
Okay. But the interesting fact is that the record says
Yes.
that Sakesang speaking population is only 19,846.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very
So I
confusing.
had a doubt
Yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah, that's very
Okay. Anyway, thank
confusing.
you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you, sir. Okay.
Can I make a comment here?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, regarding this Chakesang, under the Chakesang like Pochuri, Keja, and Chokri. So it's very complicated things. In the government record, it's something, and the ground reality, it's something, to my understanding. So the scholar is trying to give some ground reality as recorded in government's record, as Dr. Alindra was saying something. And from Biko's work, as he's claiming that these are the sub-tribes which comes under Chakesang. So I'm not the right person, what is what and what is what, but these are the things which is going on. It's very complicated things. Yeah, that is the comment that I want to make. So the speakers will say that they are not similar to each other. Their languages are not intelligible to each other. So they are different language. But in the government record, as they comes under the tribe Chakesang. So I think it's a long ongoing debate.
Uh, yeah, sir. Actually, Sakeshang is already coming as a different language, as a different community in the census report. But it is showing the population is 19,846, where Chokri population is, I think, 91,216, like that.
Yeah, I do hope so. After some time, when as because she's just at the early part of her research, after some time, I think she may come up with some concrete information about
Yes.
Chakesang and the Chokri, even the Keza and the
Yeah.
Pochuri also.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any more question?
Can I come in again?
Yes, sir.
Please, please.
I am coming back for that diphthong. See, uh, in Wipo language, our orthography, in our orthography, we use uh, different spellings in for different tones. Say like uh, yao, yao, depending on the tones. Yao means Y-A-O, yao. So ao, A-O is one diphthong. But yao, yao. For that low tone, we use Y-I-A-O. So we don't count as I-A-O as a different diphthong. Only a low tone form of A-O. The diphthong A-O, uh, lower tone. So I-A-O is not considered as a different diphthong, but it's a uh, low tone form for writing uh, for the diphthong A-O, ow. Yao, yao means sheep. In our Ipo language, yao means sheep. Yao means uh, plural marker. Yao, yao, the ships. Normally, ship doesn't have a plural form in English, but see, we have yao, yao means ship in plural form. So when it is yao, we use IAO, but we don't count it as a diphthong. IAO, we don't count it as a diphthong. So whether that O, you said UO is a one diphthong, uh, but we have also used UO also, kalo, rich, kalo, KALUO, kalo. So, but that is not, we consider it as a one, you know, lower tone marker of O extended, but in lower tone. That was what I wanted to remind. Um,
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Alindra, may I have one question?
Yes, please, sir.
Just I'll just request speaker to go to the vowel inventory of both the families. You please share the slides.
Okay, is it visible? Yeah.
Just I wanted to know that the low mid vowel, front low mid vowel, this A, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Somewhere we mentioned that no, this is a three variation with the mid vowel A, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But if it is the case, so can you put A as a vowel, but you are putting here the low mid vowel A. What is the
Yes,
reason?
sir. Yes, sir. The reason for that is that I think it may also differ from speaker to speaker with how they sound. Like we all have different pronunciations, but with my speaker, she has pronounced it more like to the central, not to the front. Like for example, in words like le, le, le. So so due to that, and only after in almost all this in like most of the sounds words, I mean the words consist having this sound, she has pronounced it with more openly and more central, like mid, in the mid sound. So and then only after like I used to tell her whether I used to change the sounds with a sound, the sound between this e and this a sound. So I used to change it, and she used to agree, like, no, this both, we can use both. It doesn't really matter. So, but she has used this sound more more than the other sound. So that is the reason I have given this sound to be.
No, okay. Then my question is that
Yeah.
these two are trill berries, but is there any specific position or in all of position, like initially, middle, or finally? Any specific any specific environment?
Um. No. No. Can I just?
In all cases or not? Because you were saying that it's trill berries.
Yes, yes, sir. In all occasions, yes, sir. Sorry, yeah. In
In
all
all cases.
occasions, except like not. I mean, this sound, Yeah, not in the initial position, but in the medial and final position. So it occurs. This variation occurs in just the initial, medial, and final position, not in the initial. In the initial, the speaker, she does not pronounce the a sound, the close sorry, the close the close a sound, but she has pronounced the open mid sound a.
Okay, but I think so. You have to go for the spectrograph, acoustic
Yes, sir. Yes.
interpretation for the vowels.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And
I'm working
my
on that.
third question is in the vowel inventory of Chokri. You please go to the slide.
Chokri, this, sir?
Yeah.
No, sir is talking about Pochuri.
Oh, sorry, Pochuri, Pochuri.
Oh, okay.
Pochuri.
Go
Sorry.
to Pochuri.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You have contrast between this A and A.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any, examples? I mean, the minimal pairs of these two.
Vico, can you please go to the minimal pair slide?
Do you have this one?
Okay. After this, Vico. One more. One more. Yes, closed mid versus the open mid.
This is the.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
The minimal.
Can
It
you
only
pronounce
contrasts in the,
us?
it only
Can you
contrasts in your final position. Hello?
Yes, sir.
It is only your final position.
Sir, for the minimal pairs, I found only these sounds, only these words. So
Only
it's
this word.
yes,
This
away, away is bear, and away with B. Kache, read, kache, which means the tree. So I've asked her, and I've asked my consultant about this over and over again, and she has differentiated the two sounds like this.
Okay. Then okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Just I want to know this. Thank you.
So I think we can conclude the seminar, the session here now. If anyone has any question, suggestion, you can add. Otherwise, we can yeah, conclude. So now I thank and congratulate all the esteemed speakers, audience, and of course the organizers and the collaborators for organizing such an important webinar and incorporating me to have the opportunity to chair this session. I wish all continue safe and good health. Now, I sincerely apologize for being late to join today. Actually, lockdown starts here right from 9 p.m. today. It's a complete lockdown here for 14 days. And I hand over the screen and mic to the respected organizer and collaborator. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Olindro, for very smoothly conducting this webinar session, which is the last session of the day and also of the entire webinar. So thank you very much. Thank you to our honorable speaker, Professor David A. Peterson, for his very insightful talk on the challenges of lexical documentation with special reference to languages of Northeast India, and also to our co-presenters, Vico and Kanei, for their wonderful presentation on Chokri and Puchuri vowels from Peck district. Before we end, I want to make one announcement, which Dr. Bijan is also going to specify that we are soon going to organize the first international conference of Tibeto-Burman Linguistic Association of Northeast India, which we are calling it in short form as ICT Blane 1. And I think I will pass on the mic to Dr. Bijan, who will announce it and also deliver vote of thanks from all of us once again. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Monali. Before I propose vote of thanks, it is my request to all the participants to kindly turn on your video, because today is the last day, so we want to take a snapshot of all of you. If you kindly turn it on, all your videos, so that we can take one snapshot.
Dr. Bijan Kumar, can you see me in the video? Actually, I don't have enough light actually.
Yeah, it's a bit dark.
Yeah.
Anyway, so your tab is there. We'll manage. Okay, many are turning on now.
I see you, sir, in the dark room.
If rest of the participants can turn on very quickly so that we can take some snaps.
Please turn on your video.
Okay, I think Samir was saying something, but his voice is breaking. This will be the last. Okay. Okay, thank you, everyone. All right. Thank you, Monali, for giving me this opportunity to propose the vote of thanks in such a prestigious academic event. I would like to thank first the Department of Linguistics, Assam University. Not only thanks, I congratulate them for successfully conducting a webinar series. This is the third and last webinar that they're conducting in this COVID time. So I'm really indebted. I really appreciate for their initiatives. So Professor K. Dhiren Singha, who is taking the spearhead of such an initiative, I really appreciate it, sir, for your kind initiative, and Dr. Monali Longmalai, for expediting all these things in a very smooth way, and all the faculty members from the department and the research scholar who are behind the scene. I know that there are many people who are behind the scenes. As program cannot be a result of a overnight. It cannot be done, or it cannot be sorted out in an overnight. So congratulate and many thanks to the Department of Linguistics, Assam University. And I, as a representative from the Tiblane, also would like to thank my fellow Tiblane members for being a collaborator of such a long academic event. So all the chairpersons who have given their valuable time for chairing all the session from the day one, that is from 24th of this month till this moment, I really appreciate it, and thanks for your giving your valuable time, and all the plenary speakers who have been talking in so many new things, and we have been learning so many things from your talks. So especially today, as we have Professor David Peterson, who is speaking from overseas university, we are really indebted and appreciated for your valuable time. And we learn many new things also. That's the most important part, I think. So apart from this, also those participants who were giving their valuable time right from the beginning, day one till today, with high energy and involving in very constructive discussion, and your comments, your suggestions will be, I think, I do hope that it will benefit the young scholar to come up their research to the next level. So I really thanks for your valuable inputs for that also. So I hope I have covered almost all the people who are involved in this program. If I miss out anyone or somebody, please excuse me for that. But in principle, I cover all of you that who are a part of this program. And at last but not the least, as Monali pointed out also, Tibeto-Burman Linguistics Association of Northeast India, in short, which is we known as the Tiblane, we are going to organize our first international conference that is scheduled on June 26 and 28. We have already rolled out our call for papers also, and we are coming very shortly with our web page where you can find all the details of Tiblane as well as for this conference. So it is my request to all the people, that is the scholars, especially the young scholar, to kindly contribute your valuable paper and to have a good discussion on your research also. So this would, I think that would, apart from it, that will be also another good opportunity for the young scholar to showcase your ongoing research and your findings. And definitely you are going to get valuable suggestion, comments from the expert who have expertise in those areas. You are going to feel, and incorporating those ideas, you can bring up your research to the next level. So please contribute your papers for the international conference of the Tiblane. So with this note, please stay safe wherever you are. So that is my word from my heart that I can share with everyone, and please take care of your near ones also. So thank you everyone, and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Bijan. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you so much, and good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Bijan,
Okay,
Monali,
bye-bye.
Mary Kim,
Bye.
Jaren.
Bye.
Hope to see you again.
Okay, soon. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Be careful.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Please stay safe.
We're thinking about you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.